Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer 55551, and I am back with a My 2 cent Nintendo/gaming video for this week, for the week of July 19th to the 25th. And we got 4 stories to cover though. We're going to cover the NPD charts that just recently came out, and there were some interesting surprises on that one. 2 games in particular that I'm kind of surprised that made it on to the list, including one that has been considered controversial by many, but doesn't seem like that stopped it from taking the #1 spot. We also want to talk about a change in the policy that Metacritic is recently doing in terms of their user review scores. Although although I wouldn't be surprised not everyone will be happy with this. I also want to give my response to the Direct Mini that happened this week and give you my thoughts about that, including some of the announcement and reports coming out, especially after the development team at Crytek showed off basically the Switch version of the Crysis Remastered and all that. And I also want to give my early impressions on the game so far based on my time with it after I downloaded it from the Nintendo eShop. But before we get started, we'll start off with what I like to view the quick My 2 cent, where there's some stories that caught my attention, but I'm not really going to go into a huge amount of detail though. The first one we do learn is that the upcoming Insomniac Spider-Man's Miles Morales, which there's some debate over whether or not that's just a DLC or whether it's actually a full-fledged game or anything like that. There's been some debate back and forth on that. But in either case, it looks like there will be an optional 4K 60 frames per second. Supposedly, in other words, it does sound like we're going to have both a like graphical option, whether you could choose between having a higher resolution or a higher frame rate, which in all honesty, I'm not against that. I'm not fully 100% against the idea of having a graphical option in a lot of these games, though. I mean, the upcoming Demon Soul remake is going to have that. Neo 1 and 2 from Koei Tecmo had that option. Even Fire Emblem Warriors for the Nintendo Switch had a graphical option as well. When playing at dock, you could play it at 1080p 30 frames per second or 720p 60 frames per second. So I basically welcome this option that they are doing with the upcoming Spider-Man's Miles Morales. We also learned that another RPG, Aether, Ateler, Ryza2, Lost Legends, and the Secret Fairy Flutter from Koei Tecmo and Gust is going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch along with other systems as well. I believe Gust is the same one that's working on that upcoming Fairy Tale, if I'm saying the name correctly, game, which supposedly will be out I think around January 30th or 31st, barring any major delays or anything like that. So this is one I'll probably keep an eye out for as well. We also learned that there is an online retail listing for the Switch version of Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. There have been rumors about that possibly coming to the Nintendo Switch and all. We'll have to wait and see if it truly happens or not, though. I'm still a little iffy because of EA and their history with Nintendo, especially going as far back with the Wii U era and all that stuff. But we'll wait and see, and if this comes, we'll see if consumers will be interested in this one, though. They did release Burnout Paradise Remaster, and I honestly gotta say I'm very impressed how that game is able to hit the 60 frames per second on the Nintendo Switch. That's pretty impressive, though. We also learned that the so-called F-Zero Twitter that was rumored last week, that many people were hoping that this will be a new entry, turns out to be it was fake and all that stuff. So unfortunately, it doesn't look like we're getting a new F-Zero anytime soon, which is a little bit unfortunate though, because I really think that this would be a good time to bring F-Zero back into the fold, especially given how well Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is doing. I think it's time F-Zero does need to make a comeback. Nintendo, seriously, that does need to make a comeback. We also learned that Phil Spencer has shut down the idea of Xbox Game Pass coming to other systems, including the Nintendo Switch, which To me, that's not entirely shocking by this in any way, despite Microsoft releasing some games on the Switch, like Ori and the Blind Wasp, Cuphead, and of course Minecraft has been available on other systems, so it doesn't really surprise me at all. It would have been interesting to see how it would have Xbox Game Pass would have run on a system like the Nintendo Switch, but honestly, I'm not really shocked at this announcement at all. We also learned that Deadly Promotion, or whatever, Premonition 2, apologize for not saying the name correctly, is basically they're working on trying to get another patch that will improve the frame rate, because judging by some of the videos that came out, it runs at basically around 15 to 14 frames per second, which in all honesty, that is unacceptable for a game to have that kind of performance. I mean, hell, even the Outer Worlds, as imperfect as it was for those on the Nintendo Switch, even though I really didn't have a problem with it though, as much as others have though, at least that one I felt like still runs well and all that stuff. The fact that this doesn't at around a 15 to 40 frames per second, in my opinion, is unacceptable, and it kind of makes you wonder. It makes you wonder why they launched it in that state in any way. We also learned that the team behind the Konami classic Suikoden, Suikoden, is supposedly creating a spiritual successor and will be launching a Kickstarter soon to make this game happen. And while it's judging by the screenshots that have come out, I'm definitely getting a little bit of a Octopath Traveler vibe to it to a certain degree. And while I wish them the best of luck, crowdfunding and Kickstarter in general doesn't have exactly the greatest history. And we saw what happened with Mighty Number 9. Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, I will say, is somewhat better than what happened with Mighty Number 9, but still there's some controversy with it, especially with the Switch version, as many people accuse the developers of treating that as an afterthought and all that stuff, and I kind of agree with that argument, to be exact. And we also learned that supposedly a new DLC for the Outer Worlds is in the works, which is good, but the Switch version supposedly will come at a later date. And while that is somewhat disappointing though, I kind of understand that though. I mean, given the fact that they announced that they're working on a new update or a new patch for it, I'm hoping at the very least that patch comes out first. And although I still don't have as big of an issue with the Outer Worlds on the Switch as others do, hopefully maybe they'll iron out some areas with the game, maybe improve some areas that people have complained about, and hopefully by then the DLC will come to the Nintendo Switch. We know it's probably going to come at a later date than what the PS4, Xbox One, and PC version are going to happen. We also know that the last year's exclusive Dragon Quest XI, if I'm saying the name correctly, that was the enhanced version that was exclusive for the Nintendo Switch, is no longer exclusive. I assume it was probably a time exclusive though. And now it looks like it will be coming this winter to the PC, Xbox One, and PS4. So, I mean, I'm not really losing sleep over this one. I didn't lose sleep when Octopath Traveler came to Stadia and PC via Steam, so I'm not really losing sleep on this one at all. I mean, I'll still stick with the Switch version. I think the Switch version runs fine in my book, though. But for those who are hoping to get this definitive edition and you own either the PC, own a PC, or Xbox One or Stadia, I mean PS4. Sorry about that one. Sorry about that one though. Then you got something to look forward to if you're waiting for the enhanced version. And last but not least, the former creator of Sonic the Hedgehog created this 3D platformer called Balan Wonderworld, Balan. This was shown during this Xbox event that was showing off supposedly a lot of the new games and all that stuff, although there's some debate over some people either loving it or hating it and all that stuff. There's certainly some issues with it though, but judging by the game trailer that they showed so far for this new 3D platform from the creators of Sonic the Hedgehog, it looks interesting though. I'm definitely getting a little bit of a mixture of a Nights into Dreams kind of vibe to it, and maybe somewhat of a Billy Hatchard and the Giant Egg. That was not a bad game on the GameCube, though. I really wish they would Sega would really remake that, maybe improve the camera angle and all that stuff. But I'm definitely getting that vibe out of it, and I'm definitely will keep an eye on this one because I like 3D platformers. They're definitely fun, though. Even the one I played, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, though not perfect, still enjoyable. You know, an old school 3D platform and all. So this is definitely one I would certainly keep an eye out for. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part now out of the way, we will now get started with our first story, and that has to do with the NPD charts. And now this one, the NPD obviously released their best-selling games for June, and it looks like some of the games on there, especially one in particular, The Last of Us Part 2, which has been controversial despite the leaks, despite all that stuff, and yet, despite all the controversy surrounding it, it doesn't seem to have stopped this game from being a success, as apparently it hit the #1 spot. According to VentureBeat, and which they reported on what the NPD released, in terms of the software for for June, it has The Last of Us Part 2 at #1, followed by Call of Duty Modern Warfare at #2, Animal Crossing New Horizon at #3, Grand Theft Auto 5 at #4, Mortal Kombat 11 at #5, Red Dead Redemption 2 at #6, Ring Fit Adventure at #7, NBA 2K20 at #8, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe at #9, Minecraft Dungeon at #10, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate at #11, Rainbow Six Siege at #12, Minecraft PS4 Edition at #13, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild at #14, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order at #15, Borderlands 3 at #16, Need for Speed Heat at #17, P4G Persona 4 Golden at #18, SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated at #19, and Assassin's Creed Odyssey at #20. So it looks like despite all the controversy about The Last of Us Part 2 and, you know, some of the people making inappropriate or death threats to some of the voice actors and all that stuff from what I've heard and all, it looks like that wasn't enough to stop the game from becoming the #1 spot. In fact, and I know some people will view this as controversial for me saying this, I can't help but feel that I'm getting somewhat of a Captain Marvel vibe to the situation, though, where a lot of people wanted that movie to fail. There were people out there that wanted it to fail and all that stuff, to the point that they tried to review bomb the movie on Rotten Tomato and all that stuff, forcing them to change that, along with what happened with Star Wars The Last Jedi. And yet, despite that, the movie was still able to become a box office success, nevertheless, though. The fact that Animal Crossing is still doing very well on this list is very nice. Even Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, games from 2017, are still doing well. Seeing how Breath of the Wild's doing, it makes you kind of wonder what the situation with Breath of the Wild 2 would be like. But to see SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated make it onto this list, a remake, I believe, of a 2003 3D platformer, is pretty amazing. I mean, it shows that it seems that a lot of people had that nostalgic feel to it and all that stuff. Again, I never played the original one, but still, it's still, people enjoyed it, though. Down to basically, and Rig Fit Adventure, it's continuing to do well, and Persona 4 Gold is certainly doing well. That must mean Aulx must be pretty happy. Not to mention, supposedly it's #1 on the Steam charts from what I've been hearing. Now, over to the best-selling games this year, Last of Us Part 2 has made it onto the #3 list. Resident Evil 3 made it into the #9. Animal Crossing, probably the only Switch title on this list, is at #2 so far. And Resident Evil 3, though not as good as the Resident Evil 2 remake, but still good, still enjoyable nevertheless, made it in at #9. In terms of the best-selling games for the last 12 months, basically Animal Crossing and Last of Us Part 2 both made it onto that list at number 7 and number 8. In terms of basically the top 10 Xbox games so far, it seems as though Minecraft Dungeon, Minecraft Xbox One Edition, and Forza Horizon, all three of them first-party games, have made it onto this list for June 2020 NPD. Minecraft Dungeons at number 4, Minecraft Xbox One Edition at number 8, and Forza Horizon 4 at number 9. So, I mean, that's nice for them. Otherwise, Call of Duty Modern Warfare is like the number 1 game, and Grand Theft Auto, which I've said this before and I'll say it again, Grand Theft Auto 5 has slowly become the new Skyrim and all that stuff. It's like, next thing you know, you're going to hear they're going to port Grand Theft Auto 5 to everything. I mean, we already know it's coming to the PS5, so that's nothing new right there. In terms of the top PS4 games on here, obviously The Last of Us Part 2 is basically at number 1. The other first-party games from Sony that are on this chart are MLB The Show 20 is at number 6, and Marvel Spider-Man is at number 8. My guess is that with the upcoming Spider-Man Miles Morales, obviously it's back on there and people are actually enjoying that, are maybe actually enjoying it. And honestly, I think it was a good game too. Best Spider-Man game since Spider-Man 2 back in 2004, and that's a long time. Over on the Nintendo Switch, majority of the top 10 are basically first-party games. Obviously, Animal Crossing New Horizons at number 1. That's on there. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is at number 6. I'm glad that game's still doing well though. Smash Brothers Ultimate, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe are on there at 3 and 4. Pokemon Sword is at number 8, which is very interesting considering we are not seeing Pokemon Shield. And we have 2 third-party games that have made it on this list. Number 7 is Just Dance 2020 from Ubisoft. But the one that kind of surprised me a little bit is The Outer Worlds is on this list. It's at number 10 as the 10 Nintendo Switch games. So the version of the version of The Outer Worlds, the one that not everyone seemed to like though, although I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people make it sound like it is though, is at number 10. So obviously people are enjoying that. So I would say overall the takeaway from this is that Outer Worlds and SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated were kind of somewhat of a surprise though. It's interesting to see that The Outer Worlds on the Switch is at number 10 on the top 10 best-selling Switch games, despite some people not liking that version. To see SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated do that well is also very impressive. That certainly is neat though as well. Grand Theft Auto 5 still continues to dominate. It still continues to be on almost every list though. Same with Animal Crossing New Horizon, Breath of the Wild, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is still doing well. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is still doing well. And the big one obviously is The Last of Us Part 2 becoming the number 1 best-selling game in June. So despite the whole controversy surrounding it, whether you agree with the controversy or not, whether you think some people are blown out way out of proportion or you think it's justifiable, it doesn't seem like it was enough to stop that game from becoming the number 1 best-selling game in June. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with a new change in that Metacritic is doing in regards of user reviews. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at a new rule that has come up in regards of Metacritic. Now I'm sure most of you have heard of the term review bombing before, and we've seen how some users have review bombed either movies, TV shows, and video games, and some of it is, sometimes it comes off as sort of a protest review and all that stuff. Although it is worth pointing out that not every user review should be considered review bombing. There are some user reviews that are actually good and give their reasons why they like or dislike it. So I'm not saying all user reviews are necessarily bad. But there have been cases where we've seen some people take user reviews to the point of, or review bombing it, to the point where it does seem to get a little bit ridiculous. We saw how this played out with movies like Star Wars The Last Jedi and Captain Marvel, to the point that basically, though, that sites like Rotten Tomato had to change their policy in response to all this. Well, it does seem as though Metacritic has sort of now done the same thing, so only within the gaming section and all that stuff. In an article from Destructoid, it reads that, quote, review aggregate site Metacritic has implied a new rule that prevents users from leaving review scores for a video game until 36 hours after the title's initial release. We recently implemented the waiting period for all user reviews in our games selection to ensure our gamers have time to play these games before writing their review, Metacritic told fellow Viacom site GameSpot. This new waiting period for user reviews have been rolled out across Metacritic's game section and was based on data-driven research and with the input of critics and industry experts. While not directly mentioning the issue, it's impossible not to assume that the new rule is an effort to combat review bombing. This is a process of drowning a particular title in mess of negative review scores, a tactic often but not always deployed by communities that protest against a particular aspect of a game beyond its actual gameplay. And we've seen games that have gotten review bombed before. Last year's Platinum and Nintendo's Astro Chain is certainly one of those examples. So, anyway, the most recent notable incident of review bombing took place last month with the release of The Last of Us Part 2. Within scant hours of its release, the Naughty Dog sequel had already received well over 5,000 negative user reviews, launching a user score of 3 out of 10. JUXTAPOSED against a Metascore of 9 out of 10. Previous review bombing campaigns were held against Pokemon Sword and Shield and Animal Crossing New Horizon, as well as movies such as Star Wars The Last Jedi and Captain Marvel. It should also be noted that despite these campaigns, all of the above titles saw incredible financial success. And in a response from Game Industry Buzz, though, which they posted their article about it, though, from an update, it reads that, quote, Metacritic has responded to game industry buzz and confirmed the change, adding that it only applies to the game section and not other forms of entertainment. The company also said the decision was not made based on reaction to any particular game. We recently implemented the 36-hour waiting period for all user reviews in our game section to ensure our gamers have time to play these games before writing their reviews, a spokesperson said. This new rating period for user reviews had been rolled out across Metacritic gaming section and was based on what they said, data-driven research and industry experts and all that. So they're basically saying it had nothing to do with any particular game or anything like that. Honestly, though, I know some people will not 100% agree with me on this, but honestly, I'm not entirely against this or anything like that. Yes, I do want to state that not all user reviews are necessarily bad, and there are those who do write user reviews that are actually very good. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying all user reviews are bad, but I do think that I do agree with what Metacritic is doing, same with Rotten Tomatoes though, is that it's getting to the point where it's sort of funny, but then it's sort of getting ridiculous, and then you have people who are review bombing it without giving any particular reason whatsoever why they don't like this game or anything like that. So I have to say, I kind of have to side with Metacritic and Rotten Tomato to a certain degree on this, though. I mean, look, I'm not saying you have to, like with Star Wars The Last Jedi and like with Captain Marvel, I'm not saying you have to like The Last of Us Part 2. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's your opinion, that's your preference, that's your taste, and you give a good, valid reason why you don't like it, okay. I mean, I'll respect that. I may not 100% agree with you, but I will respect that. But when it gets to the point where people are just review bombing it, hoping it, trying to push for, like, they want this to fail so badly because their life depends on it and all that stuff, that's when it starts getting a bit ridiculous. So overall, I have to say, I know it's controversial for saying this though, but I kind of have to side with Metacritic and Rotten Tomato on this one. I do think it is. I do applaud the fact that they're clamping down on review bombing. I doubt this will stop people from review bombing a movie, TV show, or video game or anything like that. But I do applaud that they're at least taking some effort into it. Whether it becomes a success or not, who knows, to be exact. But I highly doubt. I doubt it will completely stop everybody from review bombing something. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with the Nintendo Direct Mini that happened this week. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My Two Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at the recent Nintendo Direct, henceforth referred to as a Direct Mini. Now, for a lot of Nintendo fans, we had to wait a while for a new Nintendo Direct, though. I think the last one, I think was in either March or May and all that stuff. This was when the whole situation with the whole coronavirus was starting and all that stuff, and it really has thrown a lot of things into the loop. In fact, Nintendo has recently came out that they're basically, ensuring the safety of their employees, but there's a good chance a lot of services and some games could be delayed, which honestly isn't really that surprising given the current situation the world is right now and so forth. But anyway, back on point though, basically we finally got a new Nintendo Direct, and the response to this Direct though has met with basically mixed reception, as not everyone is pleased with the Direct and everything like that. Now, I saw it was about 8 minutes long and all that stuff, and I would go as far as saying that while I'm not losing 100% sleep over this Direct though, I was kind of a bit disappointed though. I mean, I understand if they're focusing on third parties and all that stuff, that makes sense though, but I do wish that I wish for certain announcements like what's going on with the Switch version of Doom Eternal and all that stuff. So there certainly is the announcement isn't 100%, didn't really click with me as much, except for one part that I thought was really good. So anyway, when you look at some of the announcements that are made, this is sort of a roundup from Nintendo Life and everything. Some of the announcements they made were that Cadence, Cadence of Hyrule is getting a season pass. It's going to have basically it's basically going to have 3 packs though. The first one is a character pack. The second one will be a melody pack, which will add new songs, and an additional story content though. I tried the game out for a little bit last year. I still have to try a little bit more of it though. I think I think it's made from the same developers who did Night of the Crypto Dancer, if I'm saying the name correctly. If not, I apologize for it though. And it was sort of interesting and all that, so it's definitely one I might keep an eye out for. But as far as a spin-off to the Zelda series though, this one was alright, but I prefer something like a Hyrule Warriors game like that. I like the Definitive Edition. Would love to see a Hyrule Warriors 2 if that ever happens though. They showed off WWE 2K Battleground. That's sort of the new WWE game that's coming out, considering the fact that there's not going to be a new WWE game this year. Some of it has to do with the coronavirus. Other has to do with the fact that not everyone was pleased with WWE 2K20 last year and the whole graphical bugs and glitches that went through and all. Judging by the gameplay that I'm seeing so far, it looks like a cross between, I believe, the old WWF WrestleMania arcade game that I've seen before to, I think there was a game released back on the Wii, PS3, 360 era, WWE All-Stars and all that stuff. I mean, it looks okay. Maybe we'll see if this clicks with people or anything like that, though. The other game they showed off was Rogue Company. It looks like it's an online multiplayer, although you can basically challenge AI opponents and all that stuff. It looks like another one of those, like, it's basically a multiplayer game or kind of like a battle royale style. That one doesn't really click with me as much. I'm sure there are those who like that and all that stuff. So that's fine if you enjoy those, but those didn't really click with me. The big ones I would say for me, though, at least the ones that I thought clicked with me the most out of this Direct Mini, was the announcement of Shin Megami Tensei 3 HD Remaster. I think it was a remaster of the original. I think it might have been PlayStation 2, but I'm not 100% sure. But the fact that it's coming to the Nintendo Switch is definitely nice. They're aiming for spring 2021, although the game will be out, I think, in Japan earlier, though. And the fact that Shin Megami Tensei 5 still exists, though, even though many thought that game was canceled, or many thought what the hell was going on with that game. But apparently we saw what basically was a cinematic trailer, and it looks as though that one is still aiming for 2021. It's aiming for a simultaneously global launch on the Nintendo Switch. So that's great. Obviously, my guess is that the Shin Megami Tensei 3 HD Remaster will probably come first before the Shin Megami Tensei 5 and all that. And as far as the direct, as far as those direct minis, though, it seems as though Nintendo is still planning to showcase more throughout 2020. From an article from Nintendo Life, they're basically saying, quote, with this new Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, we are delighted to be shining a spotlight on great games from our developers and publishing partners. With multiple showcases this year, we can continue to highlight the breadth of games and the varieties of experience all type of players can get on the Nintendo Switch. So it sounds like we're going to see more of these Direct Minis and all that stuff. This one, like I said, it was okay. I mean, it was somewhat disappointing, but it was alright, though. I think the Shin Megami Tensei HD Remaster, the number 3 and upcoming number 5 one, to me, were like the big highlights, though. Other than that, the other ones just didn't click as much as the as the ones that I just mentioned. Now, as I said before, am I losing sleep over this? The answer is no. And I think some people are going, I think are going maybe a little bit overboard over this, though. It comes off as them being entitled and all that stuff, and I don't think that's good and all that stuff. I think some people are saying the Switch is doomed because of this and all that stuff. It's like, no, I don't think the Switch is doomed. Given the current position right now, I think it's doing well and all that stuff. Look, not every Nintendo Direct is going to be 100% perfect, nor is every Direct going to go the direction you want to go. So it's always best that anytime you hear a rumor about a Nintendo Direct, you should always take it with a grain of salt and always set your expectations to mild, because sometimes not every Direct is going to be exactly how you want it, though. And sometimes I feel some of the people that are complaining about this, not everyone, but some that are basically because they raise their expectations like way too high on this. And you really should not approach these Directs in that form or anything like that. At the same time, I do think that maybe Nintendo could have done maybe somewhat of a better job with this Direct Mini and all that stuff. I think I would have liked to see if there were other third-party announcements, like I mentioned, Doom Eternal, or the fact that I remember hearing how they're saying how they told third-party developers that were bringing their games to the Switch, that was originally supposed to be as part of their digital presentation for E3 this year, to say, go ahead and do your own thing and also. But overall, I just like to say, I would say this Direct Mini to me was disappointed, not really anything I'm losing sleep over. I think Nintendo probably could have done a better job, but I also think a lot of Nintendo fans, I think a lot of fans out there should probably anytime there's a direct, you should always set your expectation to mild, because don't always believe any of the rumors about the directs out there about what they claim what's going to be in it. Sometimes it could be true, but I believe that 99% of the time it's usually false, or just someone trolling or anything like that. So, but if they have new directs coming, hopefully we'll see. Maybe I'm hoping they could do a proper direct. Obviously, the whole coronavirus is just throwing everything off at this time and all that stuff. But hopefully we'll get hopefully the next direct, whether it's a proper direct or a direct mini, hopefully this one we get better information, especially with the upcoming holiday season and all that stuff, because I kind of do agree with some of the criticism. It does give the impression that Nintendo is just banking on just Animal Crossing New Horizons to cover them for this entire year, and I don't agree with that kind of approach. Okay, do I think Nintendo probably has more to show? Probably. Again, they have a history of keeping things to their chest. Sometimes that can work in their favor, but there are times that could also backfire as well. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4. And this one has to do with information that has come out in regards of the Switch version of Crysis Remastered. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 4th and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Crysis Remastered, particularly the Switch version to be exact. Now, the whole situation with the Crysis Remastered, basically, obviously a remaster of the original classic first-person shooter that was originally released back, I think, on the PC before making its way to the PS3 and 360. It's earned the meme and reputation of can it run Crysis? It's sort of a term when I hear that a lot when people claim they have a high-end PC. Some people will say, can it run Crysis? Considering how much of a supposedly a demanding game that was, though. So it was kind of interesting to hear how this game was be coming to a lot of the other systems like the PS4, Xbox One, PC, and even the Nintendo Switch. However, we had a bizarre situation with the whole thing. We saw basically when the announcement trailer came out, the response was mixed with negative response, because a lot of people were not pleased, especially with the version that they were showing. Some said it looked worse than the 2007 version. That prompted Crytek to delay basically the PS4, Xbox One, and the PC version, but not the Nintendo Switch version, as that pushed forward to its launch date of July 23rd. Okay, yeah, July 23rd. I confused the Fairy Tale game. I think that was like 30 or 31st. Apologize if I got the date wrong or anything like that. But anyway, some more. They recently put out a 30-minute video about talking about the Switch version, and there was some interesting information that came out about it, though. Several articles have pointed this out, but the one in Game Radar points out a couple things. It basically says that, quote, Crytek has confirmed that Crysis Remastered runs on Switch at 720p in docked mode, occasionally scaling up to 900p thanks to dynamic resolution. Likewise, expect Crysis to run in handheld mode at 540 to 720p, both dock and undock. Both docked and undocked. Crysis Remastered runs at 30 FPS on Switch, and it looks very stable based on everything that has been seen so far. The tech detail was revealed in a recent development stream that showed roughly 30 minutes of gameplay footage. The developers also revealed that the Switch version will support FXAA, but won't have the ray tracing or the ray tracing software like the other versions of the game. Some other tech enhancements from the Switch version include high quality texture global illumination, SVOGI, vegetation bending, optimal dynamic light setting, dynamic resolution, gyro aiming, which can be turned on and off on the option menu. I mean, on the option menu. Motion blur, bloom, light rays, and sunbeams though. Now, I recently downloaded the game on Nintendo Switch and have been trying it out for myself. And I will say, based on everything I've seen so far though, I do think a lot of stuff that Game Radar and other sites that have mentioned does hold up though. The game mostly runs at 720p when playing it on my TV screen, and does run at 30 frames per second. I will say, obviously, it's not going to look as pretty as, say, what the upcoming PS4, Xbox One, or even what the PC version is going to be, which I assume the PC version will probably be the best looking version, obviously. But it runs well, though. My time with the game, it still runs, and it even plays well, though. I definitely get a little bit of a somewhat of, like, you know, that early 90s first-person shooter vibe to it and all that. Plus, I like the idea, like some of the ideas in terms of you using your suit to, you know, whether it's put in some armor, put in the cloaking, basically if you want to add a sight to your guns or a silencer. And I definitely like how I feel like the game, definitely like how the game encourages you to approach the situation how you want to approach it. Do you want to go in gun swinging? Do you want to go stealth? And all that. So I like some of the approach I've seen so far with the game. And honestly, so far, I will say the game actually looks good on the Nintendo Switch. I applaud what Saber Interactive is doing with it, since they're the ones that did a good job with the Switch port of Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, though. I mean, again, it's not the best looking version of Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, but it still gets the job done. And so far, that's how I feel about with the Crysis Remaster on the Nintendo Switch so far. I think that so far my time with the game is that it looks and runs pretty well on the Nintendo Switch. So yes, the Switch can run Crysis though. So, and I will say, as far as the gameplay though, I am impressed with what I'm seeing so far. I have to dig a little deeper into it though. I'm hoping it does well enough that hopefully maybe they could bring Crysis 2 and 3 over. I would love to see those come to the Nintendo Switch if that ever happens in any way. So overall, I'm not surprised with the resolution and the frame rate for the Switch version of Crysis Remastered. I'm pretty sure it's going to look different on the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Somewhat a little disappointed that I would have liked to see what the ray tracing software would have looked like, especially for the Switch version though. But if they're trying to maintain a 30 frames per second on this, though, it would have been nice if they could have aimed for 60 and all, then, I mean, that's fine. I'm not losing sleep over that. Again, I'm more of a gameplay over graphics kind of a person. That's how I roll and all that stuff. And as far as the game itself, I'm enjoying it so far. I'm definitely getting that, like I said, that 90s first-person shooter vibe, somewhat kind of like what Turok Dinosaur Hunter was in a way. And I will have to dig a little bit more into it, but I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. And like I said, hopefully it does well enough that Crysis 2 and 3 can make their way over to the Nintendo Switch. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the NPD charts in any way? Are you kind of surprised to see that the Switch version of the Outer Worlds made it onto the top 10 Nintendo Switch games for June? Are you surprised that SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated made it onto the list though? Are you surprised or not surprised that The Last of Us Part 2 was number 1 and it seems to be doing well despite some of the controversy surrounding it though? What are your thoughts about Metacritic changing this policy in regards of user reviews? Do you think this is the right decision for them to do this though? Do you think it was the right call, or do you think it was the bad decision to make to do this in regards of user reviews on Metacritic? What are your thoughts about the Direct Mini that came out? Do you think it's as bad as the people are making it sound like it is? Or do you think people were blown way out of proportion? Did you see the Direct Mini? Did you like it in any way? Were there things you like? Were there things you hate in any at all? And what are your thoughts about Crysis Remastered, particularly the Nintendo Switch version? Are you surprised about the resolution and the frame rate for the Switch version? Are you not surprised at all? Does this discourage you from picking up the Switch version, or do you plan on picking up the Switch version anyway, or where you had no plans to pick this version up at all? And if you're not planning to pick up the Switch version, are you planning to pick up when it comes out to the PS4, Xbox One, and PC later? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that will be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!